Hello, and welcome to another edition of Sun Dragon Tips and Tricks. I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in downtown Brevard, North Carolina, and it is Monday, so I'm at my house. And just a quick message today, another one of my life lessons from knitting and crochet. Today's talk is on being your own worst critic. I feel like a lot of us fall into this, myself included. We are the roughest on ourselves. I mean, you see the memes out there, the reels, the everything about how kind you would be to someone else. And then when people say, "Hey, do that to yourself." It's like, "Oh no, 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 I can't do that." I observe this in myself and in a lot of the knitters and crocheters around me. If we take it the small scale, people walking into the shop and saying, "I'm not very good." Like they preface coming into the shop with, "I'm not a very good knitter, but," or I am just starting to crochet and I want to make this. But they kind of like, before someone else can say something bad, I will say it first. I feel like this doesn't apply to everybody, but it applies to a lot of us. It is really tough to, well, I mean, I think about this from several different angles. Either it's really tough or just challenging to take pride in what we do, or we're worried about coming off as prideful, coming off as vain, coming off as like there's something not right about being okay with who you are. And when I say we, they, whatever, I'm usually talking about myself. It's a struggle. It's a daily struggle for me. And I think about that in terms of knitting. I think about that in terms of life. I I just finished this sweater, right? I'll stand up, show it off a little bit. Everyone has been saying, "Oh, that looks amazing on you. That's fantastic. Such good work." And I look at it and I see the inconsistent stitches. I see the spots where my gauge wasn't as good as I would have liked it to have been. I started this sweater over because I didn't like how it looked. I see, and then there's apply that to real life. We can talk about how I look in things, how I see myself is not necessarily how others do. I got emotional talking with some friends at the knitting table last week about I'm more okay looking at myself from straight on, or looking at my silhouette from straight on. I don't like seeing myself when I turn to the side. I don't like how wide I am. I don't like what my weight is on the scale right now. There's lots of things we don't like about ourselves. Someone else might look at me and not see that. I either see the people who do see that, or I project out on them what I'm seeing. That must be how everyone else sees me. There's a lot of shame in that. If we take that back down to the small scale of knitting, people bring a lot of shame into my shop, and I try to help them with that. I try to help them see the good side. They say, "But my stitches aren't exactly the same across this whole piece," or "I made a mistake here," or "I did this." We are our own worst critic. We look for the problems. We look for the imperfections. We look for the things that validate our assumption that we're not as good. Liz and I can talk to the crocheters and knitters who come into the shop and say, "Yeah, if you hadn't pointed that out to me, I wouldn't have seen it." Or, "No one's going to notice that in the grand scheme of this beautiful thing that you've created." We can say that all day, and that might help, but it might not. It really depends on that person, how they're feeling inside. And that's something we can only help each other with so much. Community is a great thing. Community is part of what keeps that from rising up even more. But at the end of the day, we are our own worst critic. And it's very easy to say, hey, if you wouldn't say that to someone else, you shouldn't say it to yourself. People often talk about in the shop how I have a lot of patience, or they hope I have a lot of patience, or they'll come across with the, oh, I'm going to be your worst customer today. I'm going to be such a nuisance. You're going to get so sick of me. I've had people say, well, you're going to hate me because, and it's one of those, oh, let's back up a little bit. I try to remember when I hear those types of comments, we are our own worst critic. That is coming from a place of, this is how I feel about myself, and I'm projecting it out on you. Because I mean, except for the first part with having a lot of patience, I don't feel any of those things. They're not my worst customer. Everyone is in their own place, and everyone is worried about their effect on others, or about their personal body image, or about their personal stuff. And that's challenging. It's challenging for me too. We are our own worst critic. So what do we do about that? That's the thing I don't know if I have an answer for. I feel like, though, just acknowledging it and trying to be with that and be with who you are, it is still a journey for me. I'm not okay with myself yet. I'm getting a lot better. But it's a journey for everyone to try to just be okay with who you are. Because I can tell you, most of the work that comes in the shop, if not all of it, is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And the number of times, though, someone has put something absolutely gorgeous in front of me, like something like this, absolutely gorgeous in front of me. And then it said, but there's a problem right here. I messed up right there. It's not perfect. People say, I don't want this to look handmade, which the other inference is, I want it to look perfect, like someone bought it from a shop. Well, you didn't buy it from a shop. It's yours. There are so many forms of art where people put in a mistake on purpose, because for a lot of them, their culture says only God can make something perfect. And everyone I tell that story to says, that's such a good story. That's fantastic. Oh, yes, of course. But I want mine to be perfect. Or they see the errors when no one else does. I can tell you, there's a spot in this sweater right there. When I pull on it, those two little spots there, I didn't do my ladder back jacquard correctly. This will probably haunt me. Absolutely haunt me. In this whole big, huge sweater of gorgeousness, I still see those two little dots when I hold it up. You may see them too, because I pointed them out. But look at this amazing thing that I'm making. Brene Brown talks about the way to combat that foreboding joy, that idea that something bad is going to happen. That I think that's ingrained also in this being our own worst critic. If we put out there ahead of someone else that something's wrong, if we put out there that we're not perfect before someone else can say it, it's like holding off the bad thing that's going to happen because we are taking joy in what we're doing. Foreboding joy, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Brene Brown says that one of the ways to combat that is gratitude, is being grateful. When you feel that fear creep in, that judgment, that shame, maybe try to flip it to, what can I be grateful for? What am I thankful for? Is that the other person who just gave me a compliment? I don't know if that's the answer, but maybe that's a really small step. When our brains are pushing us to be our own worst critic, can we try to be grateful for something? Can we try to counteract that? The antidote to the venom. For now, I'm not sure. For now, I'd like to say, I see you and I hear you. And I'm there too. We are our own worst critic. And maybe just knowing that helps us on our journey. There are going to be errors along the way. There are going to be imperfections. That doesn't mean we're ugly. I just wanted to say that doesn't mean we're not beautiful. A lot of double negatives there. We are still beautiful. The things we make are still beautiful and worthy of recognition and worthy of our time. And it's okay to be proud of what you've done. I think taking stock and owning what we're doing, being proud of our accomplishments, is different than being prideful. And I think many of us were raised that you can't be proud of what you do because that's pride. The language is the same. So that's you being prideful, you're being egotistical. That's just bad. I think loving who we are and loving what we're doing, that's okay. That's really good. That is not being prideful. And it could just be repeating that over and over and over again is part of what's going to make it true in here. When someone says, that is a beautiful shawl you're making, it's taken years for me, and I don't always succeed, but it's taken years for me to just answer with thank you. Because the gremlins in me want to say, thank you, but I messed up here. How many can relate to that? Thank you, but there are errors here, 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 and here. Reach out to your community. Take the compliment from others in your community. They are their own worst critics as well. When they hear you say, yes, but I messed up here, they're feeling self-judgment too. If we all have a little more love, not only for the people around us, but for ourselves, just think of what a wonderful world we can create. So remember, we are our own worst critic. We don't have to be, but that may be where we find ourselves. And practicing some gratitude and self-love can make things better, not only for ourselves, but for the people around us. Much love from me to you. Like I said, I am on this journey as well. Try not to seek out the imperfections. Try to embrace who you are because it's awesome. And I'm so glad you're here with us. As I always like to end, may your crafting and your life be filled with joy and confidence. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hi, baby. You take my seat? You keeping it warm while I'm filming? Yeah. Can I come sit? Maybe I'll just have to sit next to you.